These companies have always been able to overpower smaller countries, the governments of smaller countries, developing countries. And now they're so powerful that they're actually overpowering our own government, you know. And that's what we're up against, you know. It is that these multinational companies, without declaring themselves to be a nation state, have that kind of power. We're the last barrier, the American people, we're the last barrier to them completely overtaking all governments. You know, so that's why people around the world are trying to get American people to stand up, to do what's happening in Spain and Israel and Iceland, to en masse stand up and say, we know what's going on. We're not going to let you take our government. What we talk about in the coffee party is a cycle of corruption. I don't know if you guys can read that. I'm trying to compete with Glenn Beck with the board here. So money equals power equals policy. Policies like deregulating markets, changing the tax code, and then that turns into more money, which equals power, and so on and so on. And what is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be this. People equals power equals policy, and that's what we're trying to get to. We need to stop the cycle of corruption and to put people back in the process, because we are being marginalized. We have to fix not only campaign finance reform, but also Wall Street reform and tax code reform, because those are the policies that create more wealth that they can use to affect the political process, right? So they all kind of work together. And the way this happened is they created legal loopholes, Citizens United being the biggest one. And we have to figure out how to start to close those loopholes. One of the things that people have to understand is the tactics of the ruling class. You know, these are old tactics, ancient tactics, bread and circus. Distract people, don't give them any truth, any substance, and give them just enough so they can live. Divide and conquer. We all know how divided our country is right now. And we usually think the division is between the parties, or the left and the right. But we all know, really deep down, the real division is between that top 1% and the rest of us. But they create this false division to have us fight our neighbors and our families instead of fighting against that top 1%. And so we have to basically do what we can to counter these tactics. We have to refuse to be divided against our neighbors and our family, right? Even if they say things that make you so mad because it's so misinformed, we have to figure out how to be compassionate. It's really about building that inclusive community of people who care about each other, who all want a better country. Because no matter what your political identification is, most Americans want to live in a democratic society. I know many of you want a kind of Tahrir Square, and to have that one singular moment when we ask someone to step down and change everything. In Egypt, people said Mubarak stepped down. We don't really have a Mubarak because we have a legal system that we have to change. So it's not going to happen overnight because there's no one that can step down. We have to start to change these laws, these loopholes. The closest thing to Mubarak is money. How does money get translated into power? They use the money to misinform people so they vote against their interest. Campaign ads are powerful, and this is a vulnerability in the corrupt system that's been created because they work. Imagine if people saw campaign ads, but it had no impact on how they actually voted. If we started a boycott of cable news and radio news that air these ads, at that level we can start to have impact, because that means people lose money if we turn off ads, and it has no political impact. So what happened in Egypt? One of the stories that came out was Twitter and Facebook changed Egypt. Well, there's some truth to that, but what happened was there were people who used their networks. They used these tools to get their information out. So they were able to bypass the state television and the corrupt media in Egypt to get information out to the masses, to the people. And you know what? We have to do exactly the same thing. We have to get the truth out. That's the thing that we can do to counterbalance and to stop this cycle here. The big theory that we have in the Coffee Party for social change is that if citizens are informed and engaged, it will lead to better outcome. Imagine if we had communities centered around our shared goal of being informed and engaged. You know, right now, political organizing is you kind of find your tribe based on your favorite issue. But imagine if we had communities centered around our desire for pure participation and civic engagement. In fact, our duty as citizens to participate in self-governance. So it's not about winning issues or battles, but it's about ongoing responsibility to be involved. So we want to make a case for us really using free speech, speaking up as much as we can at every opportunity. And so we're doing this to make that case and to really practice it on October 29th in front of the Capitol. We're inviting all Americans to be part of a Speak Out. We want it to be kind of like a citizens filibuster, where everyone gets a chance to speak. It's like open mic, and you can sign up, in fact, right now. It might go on for a day, maybe it'll go on for 2 days. But let's show Washington what free speech is supposed to be. From people like us, real people. You know, and at some level, what's happening in our country is a fight for our identity, who we are. You know, they're saying that corporations are people. We need to get passionate and committed in just the way they did in the civil rights movement. The Memphis, Tennessee sanitation workers, they had these amazing signs that they all carried that said, "I am a man." That's really similar to what we need to do. At some level, we just have to assert that I'm a person. McDonald's is not a person. Citibank is not a person. I'm a person. It has to kind of reach that level where we're so indignant that we will make sacrifices. We will take risks to fight for this, fight for our rights, fight for who we are. America is not a plutocracy. Citibank is not a person. They're trying to tell us a fairy tale. That's actually a nightmare. We don't want that. And so we need to really connect with that part of our soul, part of ourselves that led people in the 60s to make those sacrifices, because it's going to take that kind of commitment for us to see these changes that we desperately need in our country. You know, we have to fight laws that create the corruption, but it has to be something that's both cultural and deeply personal. Thank you.